I'm telling you this story because I can't find heads or tails to it. I just need to think and really process what happened. And I hope that this story will convince you that if ever something bad were to happen to you, please don't rely on anyone but yourself. It was a long weekend, and I was on my way to my mom's place. She lived all the way out in the farmyard of Illinois, so I had to get on the highway. It was actually a good day for a drive. Traffic was practically non-existent. Maybe people weren't going home for the weekend. But then unexpectedly, it began to rain. Hard. I could barely see the road when suddenly, pop. Damn it. I had a bad feeling that my tire had popped, so I pulled over and braved the rain. My heart sank when I confirmed that I've got a popped tire, and in this weather at that. I went to check my trunk for a tire jack and a spare. There was a spare tire, but the jack? Well, only God knows where that thing went. Great. I got back into my car and decided the next best thing would be to call a tow truck. They told me they were fully occupied at the moment, and it would be another hour before they got here. Well, I wasn't in a hurry, so I sat back and accepted my fate, when suddenly, a man knocked at my window. He was a short man with glasses, and a friendly grin on his face. Sheltering from the heavy rain with nothing but a small umbrella, I figured he looked harmless enough, so I rolled down my window. The man introduced himself as Jack. He said he saw me as he was driving by and wondered if I needed any help. Well, yeah. What are the odds of a man named Jack showing up just when you needed one? I braved the rain to the trunk of his car and helped Jack get his jack. Since we only had one umbrella between us, he then kindly offered to do it himself and invited me to wait in his car where his wife and kids were. I was so overwhelmed with joy that I didn't stop to think how it could potentially be a bad idea. After all, he had his wife and kids with him. Cycles usually don't have wives and kids, right? Hopping into the shotgun seat, I introduced myself to Jack's wife, Linda, and their 10-year-old son, Tommy. They had a mini picnic going on in the back seat of the car while they waited for us, and insisted that I had some of the food with them. Well, I was hungry, I thought. Don't mind if I do. I was halfway through chewing a well-cut sandwich when I heard it. Something was banging against the back seat of their car. I turned around and saw Linda and Tommy. They were smiling at me and eating their own sandwiches. Nothing out of the ordinary. Must have been a figment of my imagination. That is, until I heard her scream. A shrill cry asking for help. My eyes went wide. It was a woman, and without doubt, these people had her trapped in their trunk. Linda was still smiling at me, but it no longer felt comforting, but downright malicious. 1,000 different scenarios ran through my head. Human trafficking, kidnapping, drug smuggling, serial killers looking for the next victim. Am I the next target? I had to figure out a way out of this, safely. Tommy banged against the back of his chair and the woman stopped crying. We were all still smiling and nodding at each other, and then, without a word, I bolted. Out past the pouring rain and straight into my car. Jack tried to call me over, but I locked myself in. I dialed 911, and as it rang, I saw in my rear view mirror that Jack was almost done with my tire. Fastening the tire, he wasn't even using the jack anymore. I could technically just drive away, leave them, and forget about all of this. Finally, 911 picked up. Whispering, I explained everything to them. They said they had an officer nearby who should be with me shortly. That was good enough. I'll wait for him. He'll know what to do. Jack was knocking at my window again. I rolled it down just a little, and he said he was finally done screwing the tire into place. I thanked him, and he asked if I'd come back to his car and finish the rest of their meal with them. He said he understood why I was spooked, and that he'll explain everything in the car. Jack tried to convince me that he was a good guy. Nothing more than your average good Samaritan trying to help another fella out. Like hell, I was going back to his car. For all I know, his wife could have had tasers ready. Or worse, maybe they had guns with them. But I also didn't want to leave. For all I know, they were going to chop that poor woman up. The guilt would surely eat me inside out if I saw that on the news tomorrow. Suddenly, I heard sirens blaring. Thank God, the cop's here. A burly cop walked up to us, flashing his light against our eyes. He asked what the problem was. I didn't hesitate. I told him about the woman in Jack's trunk, and my fear that him and his family was probably going to kill her. The cop raised an eyebrow and began pushing Jack around, demanding that he showed him his trunk. Feeling braver and much safer, I followed them to the back of Jack's car. But when he opened his trunk, it was empty. There was no woman inside, not a soul. Now the cop flashed his light directly at my face, blinding me in the process. I shielded my eyes and stated my defense. I swore there was a woman banging against the back seat of his car. Someone was in the trunk. The cop was looking at me funny now. I felt like he was seconds away from arresting me. I ran into the front of Jack's car and peeked into the window. Somehow they must have moved her before the cop got there. But there was only Linda and Tommy in the back seat, looking friendly and harmless as ever, only now they were confused. The cop came over and politely questioned Linda for her account of events. He was even friendlier with Tommy. Linda said they had pulled over to help me and were sharing their meal with me, when suddenly I just bolted out of the car. The cop took a deep breath and gave me a disapproving look. He asked me if I was on substances or if I was drunk driving. Of course I wasn't. I knew what I heard. But he explained that clearly there was no lady, and that there's 2 other adult witnesses whose accounts didn't match mine. Things weren't looking good for me. The cop made me breathe into a breathalyzer. It cleared me from drunk driving, but he wasn't convinced. And just like that, I found myself handcuffed in the back of a police car, questioning if I had heard the woman in Jack's trunk at all. Maybe I was crazy. Maybe all those overnights at work finally got to me. I felt bad for Jack and Linda and little Tommy. He must have been so scared. Before he took me to the station, the cop stood around and took Jack's testimony one last time. He told me Jack wasn't going to press any charges, but he'd love to have one last word with me. Yeah, of course. He helped me with my flat tire, and I accused him of human trafficking. I was glad I'd at least have a chance to apologize to him. But before I had the chance to say anything, Jack leaned in and whispered in my ears. It's best if you don't know much about her, but please understand that I'm the good guy here. We're all just trying to do what's best for her. I was confused. What did he mean? Was the woman real? Sure enough, as the cop's car pulled away, with me in the back seat, I saw a woman sitting in the back seat with Tommy and Linda. She couldn't have been anything older than 18. With sunken eyes and pale skin, eyes that begged me to help her. Eyes that have haunted me every night since. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you another night.